Hold on to your blue and white jerseys, Leafs Nation, because what's unfolding right now isn't just an off-season. It's an earthquake. Are you ready for the tremors? For decades, we've clung to the promise of a dynasty, enduring the agonizing cycle of hope and heartbreak. We've seen glimmers, felt the surge, only to watch it dissipate into another early playoff exit. But this summer, the ground beneath the Scotiabank Arena is rumbling with an intensity unlike anything we've witnessed before. This isn't just about roster tweaks. It's about a fundamental reevaluation, a potential demolition, and rebuild of the very foundation of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Today, we're diving deep into three monumental stories that are not just shaking the Leafs universe, but threatening to redefine everything you thought you knew about this team. First, the unthinkable. Mitch Marner, our hometown hero, is on the precipice of departure, with whispers growing louder that he might actually test the free agent market, leaving a gaping, emotional void in the offense. Next, the growing, almost desperate pressure for the team to truly change its core DNA has escalated, now pointing to a potential trade involving veteran defenseman Morgan Rielly, a pillar of our defense, a name that has become synonymous with this era. And to top it all off, a rumor so audacious, so earth-shattering, it sounds like pure fantasy. The possibility that Connor McDavid, the generational talent, the legend born in the Toronto area, might actually be on the Leafs' radar. A move that could reshape this franchise forever. If you're a fan who lives and breathes this team, who rides every emotional wave, who never gives up even in the darkest moments, then hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. You absolutely cannot afford to miss a single detail of these stories that will shake the very heart and future of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Stick with us, Leafs Nation, because this summer promises to be the turning point, and you won't want to miss a single second of this conversation. The unsettling silence. Is Mitch Marner's chapter in Toronto truly closing? Imagine pouring years of your life, your passion, your unwavering belief into someone, defending them through every stumble, celebrating every triumph, only for them to quietly decide it's time to walk away. Not with a dramatic exit, no fiery declarations, just a stark, undeniable decision to follow a different path. That's the raw, unsettling feeling now echoing to the halls of Toronto. Mitch Marner, one of the most uniquely gifted players to ever wear the blue and white, stands mere days away from becoming an unrestricted free agent. And the most devastating truth? There are almost no signs he intends to stay. After 9 years, after being a beacon of hope through so many frustrating seasons, Marner appears ready to test the market. And this time, unlike the familiar off-season dramas of the past, almost no one truly believes he's coming back. The betting odds, those cold, calculating, and utterly unforgiving arbiters of probability, have delivered their stark, undeniable verdict. Toronto's chances of retaining Marner have plummeted from a hopeful plus 430 to a dismal plus 2,600. The team that once led the race to keep its star now barely registers among the contenders. And the fans? They're caught in an agonizing emotional purgatory, torn between grieving a potential loss and desperately clinging to the faintest glimmer of a miracle. Meanwhile, on the other side of the continent, the Vegas Golden Knights are making a deafening roar. FanDuel has meticulously tracked the movement. Vegas started with modest odds at plus 650, but in recent weeks, those numbers have snowballed with terrifying speed. First to plus 230, then to a staggering minus 135. What was once just speculative chatter has now solidified into the most probable scenario. And it's not just abstract numbers. There's tangible movement behind the scenes. Whispers suggest Thomas Hertl might be moved to create essential cap space, a maneuver that screams one thing. Vegas want Mitch Marner, and they are prepared to pay an astronomical price. But Vegas isn't the only shark circling in these high-stakes waters. The Anaheim Ducks, once a distant possibility at plus 850, have suddenly surged, now appearing as the second most likely destination at plus 500. This sudden, dramatic jump is no accident. Anaheim recently traded Trevor Zegras, a move that immediately freed up significant cap space and provided crucial flexibility. They've also strategically brought in veteran leadership like Chris Kreider, and perhaps most importantly, they've hired Joe Quenneville as their new head coach, a colossal name synonymous with a winning mentality and Stanley Cup pedigree. Above all, the Ducks now boast over $36 million in available cap space this summer. Franchise owner Henry Samuli was unequivocally clear in his mandate. We're not signing stupid checks. But he added a crucial, emboldening caveat. It's about making this team a real Stanley Cup contender, do what it takes. With only 17 players under contract and 2 restricted free agents to address, Anaheim possesses the financial muscle, the strategic space, and now, the burning ambition. Then there are the Carolina Hurricanes. They were once the favored Eastern Conference destination for Marner. They reached the conference finals, boast elite talents like Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, and Andrei Svechnikov under long-term contracts through 2029, and possess a healthy $28 million in cap space. Yet, their odds have inexplicably dropped from plus 340 to plus 750. They remain in the race, but no longer as a priority. And the Toronto Maple Leafs? With every passing update, every new development, they seem to drift further away, not just from retaining Marner, but from any clear, discernible plan for future. Perhaps the most agonizing aspect of this unfolding drama is the deafening silence from the Leafs camp. No announcements, no final statements, no official goodbyes. It's like that agonizing breakup no one wants to acknowledge, where each side waits for the other to make the final, painful decision. Meanwhile, time marches relentlessly forward. July 1st looms, and with it, quite possibly, the end of one of the most significant and emotionally charged relationships in the Leafs' modern era. Mitch Marner wasn't just a player. He was a symbol, a cornerstone of the rebuild promise, the hope that Toronto could finally overcome its own internal demons. He delivered 741 points in 657 regular season games, including a remarkable 102 points just last season, a dazzling display of creativity, speed, and vision. But he also carried the crushing burden of playoff controversies, the relentless scrutiny over his salary, and pressure that only intensified with every early elimination. Yet for thousands of fans, he remains our guy. TSN analyst Chris Johnson was blunt, his words cutting to the noise. It's very, very likely that Marner leaves the Leafs. Not out of anger, not out of resentment, but perhaps because after everything, he too needs a fresh start. And that perhaps is the saddest realization of all. Deep down, everyone knew this moment might eventually come, but no one was truly prepared to feel its sting. If you still believe Marner could stay, that this isn't the end, then show it. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. #StayMitch. Or, if you've already made peace with goodbye, tell us, what's the best destination for him? Vegas, Anaheim, Carolina, or perhaps a name that hasn't even surfaced yet? The truth is, this story is still being written. And even if the end is near, every Leafs fan knows this isn't just about stats or contracts. It's about identity, about everything that was and everything that could have been. So stay with us, because in the coming days, the market will explode, and with it, the Leafs may be forced into a complete reinvention. And the next name on the radar might be even more surprising. The unthinkable sacrifice. Why Morgan Rielly might be the key to a new era. What if, after so many years of chasing that elusive victory, the Toronto Maple Leafs finally decided to take the hardest, most agonizing, yet utterly necessary step to fundamentally change their destiny? After yet another painful early playoff exit, this time to the eventual champions, the Florida Panthers, the message from General Manager Brad Treliving resonated with chilling clarity. The team's DNA must change. This isn't just any change. It's a profound, surgical transformation that involves touching the very essence of the roster, the foundational pillars of the team, what defines the Leafs' identity every time they step onto the ice. It's a decision that weighs heavily, not just for management, but for the entire fan base who carry a complex, volatile mix of hope and frustration in their hearts. And the question every fan is now asking with bated breath is, where you even begin such a radical rebuild? TSN's panel of analysts offered a strong, clear, and direct suggestion, one that sent shivers down the spines of many. To initiate this radical shift, it might be necessary to part ways with one of the team's most emblematic figures, veteran defenseman Morgan Rielly. Rielly isn't just a player. He's a 31-year-old leader who still has 5 years remaining on his contract, a hefty $60 million deal. And, crucially, a no-move clause, meaning any trade hinges entirely on his approval. Even so, his departure now seems like a logical, albeit deeply painful, step for those who are truly serious about reshaping the Leafs' DNA. Brian Hayes on TSN's Overdrive was direct, his words cutting through the sentimentality. It has to be Morgan Rielly, right? If you're talking about making a big, bold move, who else would that involve? And he wasn't alone in this stark assessment. Frankie Corrado added, if the goal is really to improve the blue line, which already added key pieces like Brandon Carlo and Chris Tanev, it's no longer about depth. It's about finding a true number one defenseman, someone to anchor the unit. And right now, that someone isn't really. The front office has already begun reshaping the defensive unit. Brandon Carlo was acquired at the trade deadline. Chris Tanev was signed last offseason, and long-term deals were locked in for Jake McCabe and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. What the Leafs desperately need now isn't more quantity, but real, undeniable quality and transformative leadership. Something to fundamentally alter the rhythm of the team's defense, and in turn, their entire style of play. As difficult as it may be for fans to accept, this decision might be the very beginning of the revolution needed to finally break the cycle of frustration that has haunted Toronto for years. Morgan Rielly, a name synonymous with countless stories, heroic accomplishments, and even flashes of brilliance in playoffs, could be the painful price Toronto must pay to start dreaming big again. But that raises a crucial, agonizing question for fans. How do you reconcile the departure of one of the team's most loyal and experienced players? It's a dilemma that cuts to the very core of the fan base, torn between gratitude for past service and the urgent, desperate demand for a different, winning future. Changing the DNA of the Toronto Maple Leafs means sacrificing comfort, embracing pain, and bearing the burden to, perhaps, just perhaps, build something truly greater. And that's precisely the crossroads this franchise finds itself at. The next steps will be decisive, and they will undoubtedly shake not just the roster, but the very soul of the team and the city. So the question remains, is Morgan Rielly's departure the painful beginning of the transformation Toronto so desperately needs, or could losing this pillar deepen the uncertainty even further? If you feel this tension, this potent mix of anxiety and hope, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below about this potential trade, because changing the DNA of the Leafs isn't just a strategy on paper. It's an emotional challenge for everyone who wears this jersey with pride. The impossible dream. Could Connor McDavid come home to Toronto? The pain currently felt by Edmonton Oilers fans is agonizingly familiar, a haunting echo from the past that refuses to fade. Once again, they watched their team leave the ice defeated, while the Florida Panthers celebrated, hoisting the Stanley Cup for the second consecutive year. It happened in Game 6 of the 2025 final, a decisive 5-1 score that left no doubt about the series outcome. The journey began with vibrant hope, a dramatic overtime victory in Game 1 that ignited a fire among the fan base. But that fire couldn't withstand the storms that followed. Slow starts, a glaring absence of scoring depth, and inconsistent goaltending were open wounds that prevented the Oilers from keeping pace and holding on to their championship aspirations. Leon Draisaitl, one of the team's pillars, struggled to make sense of the loss. Comparisons to the previous year's Game 7 heartbreak no longer mattered. We lost to a very good team. Nobody gave up, nobody threw in the towel, but they were simply better, said Connor McDavid, acknowledging the Panthers' strength with respectful resignation. This loss, both painful and frustrating, places the Oilers in an uncomfortable historical group. They are now just the third team in the NHL's post-expansion era to lose back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, joining Boston and St. Louis on that bitter list. On top of that, Canada's drought continues. 32 long years since the Montreal Canadiens' last championship in 1993. No Canadian team has lifted the cup since. But as fans and analysts turn their eyes toward the future of the Edmonton franchise, a bigger and far more unsettling question begins to grow louder. A question that sends shivers, excitement, and apprehension down the spines of hockey fans across the continent. What about Connor McDavid's future? Josh Yohe, a respected NHL insider, didn't mince words when assessing the superstar's legacy. I feel for McDavid. He's a truly remarkable player, but he's never won anything. He's not Mario Lemieux or Wayne Gretzky. maybe we should hold off on comparisons until he wins a title. Even with that immense pressure, no one can deny that McDavid is among the greatest talents of hockey's modern era. The problem, and the shadow that lingers over his name, is the absence of the ultimate prize, and the clock is ticking. McDavid has only 1 year remaining on his current contract with the Oilers, and rumors are beginning to take over the market, swirling with increasing intensity. The Toronto Maple Leafs, the team from the very region where McDavid was born and raised, is now emerging as one of the top contenders to try and land the superstar. Adam Gretz of Bleacher Report summed up the situation clearly and concisely. If McDavid is ever available, Toronto has to be in the mix. The idea of McDavid returning home, donning the blue and white and forming an explosive, almost mythical duo with Auston Matthews has Leafs fans dreaming of a future that could transform a franchise forever, catapulting them into a new era of dominance. The Oilers, of course, would do everything in their power to retain their captain and the very heart of their team. But the truth is, McDavid may be looking for a new chapter in his illustrious career, especially if this pattern of heartbreak continues to repeat. If Toronto truly manages to bring the star to the team, the impact won't just be local. It will mark a dramatic, seismic shift across the entire NHL landscape, sending shockwaves from coast to coast. For Edmonton fans, it would be a bitter, almost unforgivable betrayal, but in the unforgiving world of professional hockey, legacies are measured by championships, not just by raw talent or unwavering loyalty. So now, the question that every fan and analyst is asking, the one that keeps us up at night: will McDavid leave Edmonton? Will he find in Toronto the opportunity to finally win the Stanley Cup and silence the doubts that still surround him? Share your opinion in the comments below. And if you want to follow this incredible unfolding story as it happens, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on every single step of what could be a defining, historic chapter in Connor McDavid's unparalleled career.